SpaceX just did something unusual with Ship 40, a Starship static fire where 5 of the 6 engines stayed completely silent. That one detail tells us something important about Flight 13. Meanwhile, a second ship is already at the test site. Those mysterious white heat tiles are back, and SpaceX is about to set a Starship record no rocket has ever held. My name is Felix. Welcome to What About It? Let's dive right in. Starship updates. Let's start with Ship 40 and a rather important correction from the last episode, because what happened at Massey's on June 25th was not what anyone expected. At first, it looked like a completely normal static fire setup. A regular 6-engine test, the kind Ship 39 did before Flight 12. That's what I expected and what I predicted. But then something changed. SpaceX began fueling the vehicle. Then they stopped the fueling process with the oxygen tank only about 2/3 full and only a tiny amount of methane was loaded. That's not how you set up a full 6-engine static fire. Then SpaceX fired a single engine. One of the center sea level Raptors, engine number 142, for about 15 seconds. Every other engine stayed completely silent. And SpaceX released a genuinely beautiful video of the test filmed from the inside of the engine skirt. The burn itself looked clean and healthy, but it was just that one engine. Alongside the video, SpaceX stated that a full duration single engine test was performed. That is not the norm. Look at how Ship 39 did it. It rolled to Massey's, went through a spin prime and tanking runs, and then performed a full duration static fire on April 14th. All 6 engines. Then it went to the launch site on May 8th. No single engine test anywhere in that sequence. So why did Ship 40 only fire one engine? Here's my theory. I think SpaceX was setting up for a normal 6-engine static fire, and something went wrong during the lead-up. Some issue appeared during fueling or pre-test checkouts. Rather than scrub entirely, they might have repurposed the attempt into a single-engine test to gather what data they could from that one engine. And then they stopped and rolled Ship 40 back to Mega Bay 2 on June 26th. So if that is correct, it tells us something useful. The problem, if there was one, was not likely related to the engines or the ship-side systems that feed them. Not the airframe or the tanks. If it were a tank or structural issue, you wouldn't have fired any engine at all. The fact that engine 142 fired cleanly says the core vehicle is healthy. The issue is narrower than that. So I expect SpaceX to roll Ship 40 back out to Massey's very soon to complete a proper full 6-engine static fire, exactly the way Ship 39 did. By the time you're watching this, that rollout may already have happened or is about to. Fingers crossed the ship side of Flight 13 isn't done quite yet, but it is close. And here's why I'm not worried about the Ship 40 situation slowing things down. Because while Ship 40 was rolling back, Ship 41 was rolling out. On June 28th, Ship 41 made its way to Massey's to begin its own cryo test campaign. The plan is very likely an ambient pressure test first, then a cryogenic test run right after. The typical procedure. This first cryo test matters more than people realize for a brand new vehicle. It's the initial validation of the tank structure. Before you ever put combustible propellant in a ship, you fill it with inert cryogenic liquid and pressurize it to confirm the tanks are well built, properly welded, and free of defects. It's the structural proof test. You don't move forward until the vehicle passes it. And yeah, we are spoiled. Don't be fooled. The cadence is nuts. Version 3 Starship is still very new territory. Flight 12 was the first flight of any version 3 hardware just weeks ago. And yet, here we are, watching 2 version 3 ships move through their test campaigns at the same time. Ship 40 wrapping up, Ship 41 just starting. This parallel processing is exactly the operational tempo SpaceX has been building toward. This new generation of vehicles is designed to collect as much data as possible in as little time as possible. Let me put some numbers on it. Ship 40 went from the start of its cryo test on May 3rd to static fire testing on June 24th. That's 52 days, a little under 2 months. Now apply that to Ship 41. It rolled out for cryo on June 28th. Add the same 52 days and you land on August 19th for Ship 41, hopefully being test complete and flight ready. From that, we can extrapolate numbers, and I love doing that. If Flight 13 launches in the middle of July, which is my current estimate, then a flight-ready Ship 41 around August 19th puts Flight 14 toward the end of August. And Flight 14 is the one that could include the first ship catch if everything goes well on Flight 13. There is your possible Flight 14 launch date before Flight 13 has even taken place. But wait, there's more. Let's extrapolate. Flight 12 launched May 22nd. If Flight 13 is mid-July and Flight 14 is end of August, SpaceX will have flown 3 Starship missions in just over 3 months. If we say Flight 14 goes on August 31st, that is 101 days for 3 flights. And these test campaigns are only going to get faster from here. That's the monthly cadence Shotwell was talking about taking shape right there. We spend a lot of time on this channel marveling at what machines can do once someone actually learns to fly them. And right now, the machine everyone fumbling with is AI. Today's sponsor Outskill wants to fix the fumbling. So here's the pattern. Someone opens up a model like Claude, stares at all the options, freezes, and never finds out what it can really do. Most people treat it like a slightly smarter Google. Outskill is built to fix exactly that. Outskill's running a free Claude-focused 2-day workshop this weekend, 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. Eastern. You'll see how Claude is used to build apps, design presentations, and automate whole workflows. All without writing a single line of code. You'll do deep research, build your own artifacts and dashboards, wire up connectors, and spin up your own agents. You'll also get a prompt Bible, Claude Code secrets, and a personalized AI toolkit builder. Grab your free seat to the 2-day AI Mastermind, find the link below or scan the QR code on your screen. 100% discount for the first 1,000 people. Dive deep into AI and learn automations, build AI agents, make videos, images, all for free. Bonuses worth $5,100 plus if you join and attend. Try it right now and support What About It. Now to a mystery that just came back around. Remember the white heat tiles? Back in March, I reported on white heat shield tiles spotted on a Starship nose cone inside Star Factory. They were the same size as the usual black tiles sitting on the lower end of the sloping nose cone hull. We speculated about all kinds of explanations. One theory was insulation tiles for an HLS or tanker Starship because the white reflective surface would help with thermal management for long-duration missions. Well, the white tiles are back, and this time we can see more. New images from Jordan and Amy from inside Star Factory show very similar white tiles, but now on the nose tip itself, where the tiles are usually half the normal size to accommodate the tighter curvature. And these new white tiles are exactly that, half size matching the form factor of the regular tip tiles. Because Jordan was so good at sniping this image through the windows at night, it is from the side. Thank you, Jordan and Amy, we can see a few important things we couldn't see before. These white tiles are thicker than the regular black tiles, and underneath them there is nothing. No black insulation layer, no white mineral felt for burn-through protection. Instead, there is a visible gap below them. And here's what I think that gap tells us. The tiles attach to the same fastening pins on the hull as the normal tiles do, but without the usual layers underneath, leaving a gap. And that leads me to a different conclusion than insulation. I think these might be fit-check tiles or protective tiles. Either they are there to verify that all the attachment pins are correctly placed and in working condition, or they are there simply to protect those pins while the vehicle is in the factory. Think about it. If someone bumps into an exposed attachment pin and bends it, that is a lengthy repair. And worse, if a damaged pin goes unnoticed, it could cause a tile to fall off during flight, which we've seen many times. Covering those pins with these white placeholder tiles during factory work would dramatically reduce that risk. So that's my idea. I know it's more boring than insulation tiles for an HLS. But I genuinely want to hear your idea. Are we on the right track with fit checks or protective tiles, or are these really insulation tiles for a tanker or HLS Starship after all? Let me know in the comments. I'll be reading the answers. Now to Pad 1, where the update process continues and where SpaceX is teaching us something about how they build. The latest aerial images show SpaceX hard at work removing the old steel-reinforced concrete piles from the ground where the new flame trench is going. Massive thanks go out to RGV Aerial Photography for these excellent images. This is genuinely tough work. These aerial images are essential for my reporting. If you are down at Starbase, make sure to pay our official partner, SPI Helicopters, a visit and book a flight. The same views our photographers get. It's unforgettable and worth every penny. Click the card or the link in the description. Help Y in return. Check it out today. Going back to the images we took in January and February of 2025, when SpaceX started building the Pad 2 flame trench, the difference in the process is clear. At Pad 2, the site was relatively clean. SpaceX just had to excavate the trench and then seal it with a rebar-reinforced concrete floor. At Pad 1, they are dealing with the buried remnants of the original launch pad. Tons of old rebar and concrete have to be dug out and broken apart before the new trench can even take shape. It's slower, harder work just because of the history of the site. But there is good news too. It's a perfect example of SpaceX iterating on more than just rockets. Look at how they are building the GSE bunker. At Pad 2, SpaceX built that bunker in its final location. At Pad 1, they are building the bunker frame next to the pad, not where it will ultimately sit. When the frame is finished, they'll likely just lift it into place. So why is this good news? Because it means they can build the bunker frame in parallel, before the spot where it's supposed to go is even ready. Parallel work saves time. SpaceX isn't just learning how to build better rockets, they are learning how to build pads faster, making each pad build quicker than the last. They're optimizing even on this aspect, always on the lookout for even faster ways to achieve the goal, and they need that speed. SpaceX wants 5 Starship pads operational by 2027, 2 at Starbase, 3 at the Cape, and that may not even be the end of it. Remember the story we covered exactly 10 episodes ago? Do you?
Do you?
SpaceX may be acquiring around 136,000 acres of land at Pecan Island, Louisiana. That is about 550 square kilometers, an area roughly the size of Chicago, sitting halfway between Boca Chica and Cape Canaveral on the Gulf Coast. If that comes together, Pecan Island could become a site substantially larger than Starbase itself. The pad count could keep climbing well beyond 5. When all 5 Starship pads are operational, SpaceX will set a record that no orbital rocket in history has ever held. 5 launch pads operational at the same time for a single orbital rocket design. Saturn V, the Space Shuttle, the Soviet N-1, Ariane 5, Long March, all of these legendary rockets had or have 2 operational pads at most. The current record holder is Falcon 9 with 4. Because of course it is. 3 operational and 1 planned. Starship is going to blow past all of them. 5 operational pads. That's raising the bar with the largest rocket ever built. This connects directly to what we talked about in the last episode. Remember the NASA report? One HLS moon landing needs at least 15 Starship launches to fuel the depot in orbit and to send HLS on its way. You cannot do that from 1 or 2 pads. The orbital refueling campaigns running in parallel with Starlink launches, AI satellite deployments, and SpaceX's own ambitions for Luna and Mars bases demand a fleet of pads firing constantly. The 5-pad record isn't vanity. It is the physical requirement for everything SpaceX has promised. And we're in the lucky position of watching that infrastructure get poured into the ground, one flame trench at a time. Flight 13 is next, a few weeks at most, and it has one job above all others: show us reliability. Fingers crossed, excitement guaranteed. Yay, you reached the middle of the video, you made it. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for watching and liking the video. If you're among the 40% who haven't subscribed yet, and there was at least one video you learned something new from, it would mean the world to me if you did. It is free, and it genuinely helps more people find my channel. Want to make my world even easier? There is only one place you'd rather be: the Y Member Club on Patreon and right here on YouTube. Click the card or the join button right here under the video. You are the reason we keep doing this. Thank you so much. You rock. Over in Florida, Blue Origin is in a race against its own calendar. And the finish line? Getting New Glenn back on the pad, fly again, all before the end of the year. Impossible? Let's take a look. On May 28th, a New Glenn blew up during a hot fire test, and as it violently self-destructed, it took Launch Complex 36 with it. At least, that was the initial fear. Fortunately, the team caught a break, a big one. The incident could have completely obliterated everything at LC-36, but especially the long lead stuff, the gear that takes forever to replace, survived, mostly. The tank farm with its storage facilities and the water tower are in good shape. And even the only flight-proven booster, never tell me the odds, that was stored in a nearby hangar, it's fine. One piece of hardware that was destroyed and until now was vital for New Glenn, the transporter erector. But incidentally, this was going to be retired sooner or later anyway. It was already planned to transport the rocket to the pad upright, so this machine will not be coming back. Nonetheless, Blue Origin teams are in for months of rebuilding, but progress is visible. After the initial investigation was done, workers could enter LC-36 and start to untangle the debris. Dave Limp posted this amazing time-lapse of the cleanup efforts showing that Blue is fully committed to returning New Glenn to the launch site ASAP. And the urgency is real because the backlog is growing. Amazon's LEO satellites are waiting. So is NASA. The Blue Moon lander relies on New Glenn. NASA needs it to be ready for Artemis 3 next year. If Blue Origin can't make it on time, it won't be part of Artemis 3. Out even before the kickoff. This would complicate things for NASA, even if the HLS Starship is ready in time. They don't want one vehicle, they're planning for two. The company has promised to perform its own Moonlander's test flight in early 2027 to remain on schedule for Artemis 3. Now, its task is to deliver on this promise. While the pad gets rebuilt, the rest of the shop hasn't stopped. Another post by Dave Limp showed a lunar lander engine test fire lasting 41 minutes straight, the longest burn in the company's history. This test resulted in something that was unexpected but soothing. Boredom. Limp wrote he's learned to love a boring hot fire. After May, yeah, boring sounds just fine. So, a few months to pull off what most of the industry figured would take a year? That would prove Blue Origin doesn't just recover, it would show that they can take a punch and stay in the heavyweight fight. Fingers crossed for Team Blue Origin. And now to something completely different. On June 17th, China launched a Long March 12 rocket. Its mission was a routine flight, carrying a group of internet satellites. It went up without a hitch, and no one thought much about it. But did you know that this rocket is hiding one of the most interesting stories in Chinese spaceflight right now? It's not one rocket, it's three. 3 machines are chasing 3 different goals while wearing the same number. One is a proven workhorse. One tried to land itself and face-planted in the desert. The third is the tallest new Chinese rocket of all, quietly built to do the one thing China still hasn't pulled off. So, first, the confusion that trips up everybody. Long March 12 might mean the plane 12, the 12A, or the 12B. These letters aren't trim levels of the same car. The differences are huge. Different propellants, engines, launch sites, hardware, even partially different manufacturers. It's kind of like 3 engineering teams got handed the same number and told to solve the future of rockets, each in their own way. The original Long March 12 is the boring, on-purpose one, and I mean that as a compliment. A 2-stage rocket burning kerosene and liquid oxygen, built by the Shanghai Academy of Spaceflight Technology, 62 meters tall, lifting 12 tons to low Earth orbit. This was the first Chinese rocket with a 3.8 meter wide body, whereas most before it were 3.35 meters across. And more diameter equals more payload, more flexibility. It first flew at the end of November 2024. 5 launches since and 5 successes. Why does the boring one matter? Because it's the foundation. While its flashier siblings run science experiment landings, the Plane 12 quietly flies real missions for real customers, building a track record. So, the boring one is the setup. Now it gets fun. In December 2025, China rolled out the Long March 12A. That humble A hides an almost completely different animal. Where the original burns kerosene, the 12A burns liquid methane and liquid oxygen. 7 engines on the first stage instead of 4, and it's taller at around 69 meters. But those differences aren't the headline. This is. The 12A was built to come back. The SpaceX trick, you know, the thing that revolutionized spaceflight? This was China's first real swing at bringing an orbital booster home propulsively. So how'd it go? The good news? It reached orbit clean, a success. It carried a mass simulator, a dummy weight, not a real payload. The bad news? The soft landing wasn't exactly soft. The booster came back down about 320 kilometers downrange, failed its braking burn, and crashed, missing its target by 2 to 5 kilometers. That's a big miss, likely a guidance or engine problem that showed up well before the rocket got near the ground. Comparable to the first New Glenn flight. To be clear, China hasn't published a report, because of course they didn't. Still, it flew. The concept got off the ground and reached orbit. The rest will likely follow. And now the big one, the Long March 12B, the one to watch. First, its height, about 72 meters. That makes it the tallest new generation Chinese rocket. It outtowers everything in the fleet, and the only Chinese rockets that'll beat it are still on the drawing board. But the stat that should make you sit up straight is the development time. China designed, built, and flew this thing in roughly 20 to 21 months. That's brutally fast for a brand new orbital-class rocket, which usually takes many years. How? Partly by not reinventing everything. The 12B uses the YF-102 engine family that had already flown, 9 of them on the first stage. Around 20 tons to low Earth orbit, roughly Falcon 9 territory. That's exactly what China is after, a Falcon 9-style workhorse with partial reusability. The maiden flight on June 1st went great. It reached orbit and deployed 2 satellites for China's Qin-Fan internet constellation. But the 12B, designed to land its booster like the 12A tried to, didn't even attempt it. It flew with grid fins and landing legs, but the legs were mock-ups. Real-looking hardware, no actual landing, to test aerodynamics, not to touch down. When they'll try for real is unclear, but it's rumored for the second flight. And the June 1st launch happened with no public notum or notices to mariners, the standard heads-up that warns pilots and ships a rocket's about to fly through. Those are normally public. This time, nothing visible to outside trackers. And it happened before with a Chinese launch back in October. That is so China. China is running a parallel experiment with one family. They're trying multiple roads to the same destination, speedrunning reusability made in China. China has flown reusable by design rockets, but it hasn't landed one. Yet. That's the open question. Not can China build reusable rockets? They can, and fast. It's can China stick the landing? And that's about to get more interesting because the Long March 12 family isn't the only contender. There is a private company that already got agonizingly close, meters from a perfect landing, and they're about to try again. The only questions left are when and which Chinese rocket gets the glory. And that's it for today. Smash that like button, subscribe for more. This is what fuels the algorithm, and this is how you can help us for free. Check out our epic shirts in your favorite Space Nerd store. Our all-time favorite Raptor engine design and countless others are there for you to explore. Click the card or the US or worldwide link in the description. History is being written in real time. If you want to catch the other historic stories from recent weeks, click the video on screen and continue the journey now. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again in the next episode.